Hi friends, it's Lindsay Curry. Happy Monday and welcome to my very first virtual writing workshop. I know that the past few days have been a little weird for a lot of us, right? Some of you probably no longer have school, and some of you are seeing businesses and restaurants in your neighborhoods close right now because of the coronavirus. And it's feeling strange and uncomfortable. I get that. I live in Chicago. I'm actually going to insert a clip here in a minute of what my street looks like today. You guys have to keep in mind, Chicago is very, very busy. Maybe some of you are even watching from Chicago. Usually our streets are pretty crammed with people. And this morning it was very quiet and very empty outside. So I know it's feeling a little spooky these days, but I have good news. All of this doesn't mean that we can't still stay in touch, and we can't still learn, and we can't still celebrate cool things. So that's what we're gonna start doing today. You guys maybe have already noticed I have set out a variety of things that make me feel calm and comfortable. I have a candle going, and not just any candle, guys. I don't know if you can see the name, but this is a ghost repellent candle. And it's this gorgeous, I don't know if you can see, gorgeous sparkly purple candle that, even though it's purple, you would think it smells like fruity. It smells like cinnamon. I love it. I have my computer because I may be needing that while we're doing our workshop here. And I have some paper copies of what we're going to go over. So in a minute, I will tell you where to find those paper copies if you want to print these out for yourself before we start. And also for those of you who don't know me, maybe this is your first time seeing a video of mine. Hi, welcome to my channel. It's all about books and writing. So if you're into those things, I think you'll like it and hopefully you'll subscribe. I'm Lindsay. I'm the author of primarily middle grade mysteries and ghost stories. My first book, The Peculiar Incident on Shady Street, came out in 2017. And my next release is, I just got this in yesterday in the mail. I was out of them, so I'm excited to be able to show you today, Scritch Scratch, which is going to be releasing this coming September from Sourcebooks Kids. I'm so excited. It's another Chicago-based ghost story, and I can't wait for you guys to have a chance to read. So for today, guys, I'm gonna start with part one of this writing workshop that I have on my website, okay? I have printed out a hard copy for myself, and right now I'm gonna show you how to find that in case you want to pause this video and print it out for yourself as well. It's not critical because I'm gonna be reading these things aloud, but if you're the kind of person who likes to look at it so that you can write on it, you might wanna grab a pen, maybe extra paper, although if you print it one-sided, you can use the backs. Let me show you where to find it if you want to do that. So I'm gonna flip my computer around because I'm not nearly technological enough to do this actually on my screen. Oh, see what my screensaver is? That is the map from the inside of Scritch Scratch. So cool. Okay, let me just okay, here we go. Here's my website. Real simple, guys, lindsaycurry.com, LindsayCurrie.com. This is the homepage. You can tell it's me because the ghosts. And you're gonna go to this tab that highlights red, Spooky 101, and click on that. That's going to bring this up. Wanna write your own spooky stories? That's what we're working on today. Part one of taking your stories and making them spooky. And you're gonna go to setting the tone of your spooky story, and you're gonna click on the click here button. It's actually going to bring you to a whole other page most of the time, or it may actually just give you a document to download in the bottom of your screen. And when you click on it, this is what it will bring up, okay? And then you can print it, or you can just leave it up and actually maybe watch my video on a phone or an iPad or another device, okay? So if you wanna do that, go ahead and pause and come back to the video when you're ready. So what I wanna start by explaining with doing this workshop today is that the whole reason I even created this section on my website is because when I visit schools, which is really frequently, one of the biggest questions I get from students is, well, I would like to write scary stories or spooky stories or mysteries, but I'm having trouble figuring out how to make things spooky, how to make them feel spooky or scary to readers. And I think there's a really big misperception that you have to set your story somewhere scary for that to happen. So when students and readers send me things to look at, which is really fun, by the way, and we're going to talk about you guys doing that pretty soon. Frequently it is set in a haunted house or a graveyard or somewhere that we would all think of as inherently scary. But what I want to show you today with this workshop is that you don't have to set something in a scary place for it to be scary or spooky, okay? So why don't we just dig right in, because we have a lot to cover, and I have some information to give you at the end too that's going to be really fun, and it's going to keep the excitement and the energy flowing these next couple of days, weeks, whatever our future really looks like while we're fighting this virus. Let's do it together and have fun at the same time. Okay, setting the tone of your spooky story. Here we go. So, and also for the record, guys, at the back of your packet and online, you have a dictionary of phrases. So if I say something today that you're not 100% sure what it is, it's probably in the back there and you can take a look at it. So starting out with the setting, what I want you guys to take away from this today in particular is that you can pick any setting whatsoever and make it spooky with your choices as a writer, your language, your imagery, your character's reaction to their surroundings. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of the same setting, but a very different feeling. I'm going to read them out loud. We'll start with the first one. And as I'm reading, or after I read, I want you guys to underline or highlight anything that sticks out to you, okay? And then we'll go over them together and see what the differences are. So here's example 1. In both of these examples, I'm going to use the exact same setting, which is a carnival, all right? I picked a carnival. Now, whatever pops into your head when you think of carnivals is, it could be the same as someone else's, it could be different from someone else's. Our goal as the writer is to take that setting of a carnival and write it in 2 different ways. One spooky and one not spooky. And show that we can use language and imagery and our characters to convey that feeling to our readers, even though it's the exact same spot. So here we go with example 1, which is, by the way, if you've already printed off your packet, the not spooky version. The sun beats down on my shoulders and the playful tinkling of the music at the Funhouse echoes through the park. The smell of popcorn wafts past my nose, making my stomach growl. No food and no Funhouse, not yet. I have something else planned first, something better than popcorn or cotton candy or even those weird mirrors in the Funhouse that make everyone look lumpy. The Falcon. Shrieks of excitement echo into the air, followed by the thunderous whoosh of a roller coaster plummeting down a steep drop. My hair whips back as I stare, open-mouthed at the Falcon. It's the Carnival's newest roller coaster. 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3 seconds. 6 loops, dozens of drops. I can't wait to go on it. Okay, that was example 1. So take a minute and either, if you're on your screen, if you're looking at your paper, take a look over this example and maybe highlight or underline some things that stick out to you about this one. Now, we know we were trying to go with a not spooky version. So when I wrote this, I was intentionally imagining a carnival in my head, but a fun version of a carnival, an exciting one, and trying to put my character, whoever the character is, I left that vague so you guys can imagine whoever you want, in a fun circumstance. So I'm going to highlight a few things. You guys do the same. Okay, I have underlined some things. If you guys need more time, go ahead and pause the video. That's the beauty of doing our workshop online. And I'm going to start on example 2, which is the spooky version of our carnival. Here we go. The park surges up into the gray sky in a mess of twisted metal roller coasters and monstrous rides. Shrieks of terror drift on the humid breeze. The gentle tinkling of music plays in the background, coming from a large red and white striped tent labeled Funhouse. It's eerie, that music. Soft, like it doesn't need to compete with the other sounds here, but loud enough that you can hear it anywhere you go in the park. I don't know why for sure, but I don't like that music. The hair on my arms and the back of my neck rise up, warning me that the Funhouse tent is bad news. It looms like a striped giant against the blackening sky, a rumble of thunder in the distance making it seem even more ominous. I take a step forward, then pause. What's inside the Funhouse tent? And why does it seem anything but fun? Bum, bum, bum. Okay, that is example 2. So let's do the exact same thing we did with example 1. Take a minute and pick out a few things in here that stick out to you for whatever reason. Maybe it's a language, maybe it's some sort of imagery that I put in here, maybe it's the way the character's reacting to something, and then we'll come back in a minute and we'll compare the two side by side. I'm highlighting a lot of things here. Okay, I think I'm ready to compare and contrast. And we'll see if you guys are. And remember, the beauty of doing this online is that if at any point you guys need more time, just pause the video and come back, okay? So taking a look at both of our Carnival samples, I want you guys to start thinking about what tricks I may have used to make the same setting feel so different in these two samples. And one of the first things that I want to point out, I think is one of the simplest, okay? And you might even kind of giggle when I say this, but it's 100% true. But if you notice in the first sample versus the second, our very first example starts with the sun beats down on my shoulders. So right away we have nice weather, versus our second example that towards the end of it, we have a rumble of thunder in the distance and a blackening sky. Guys, weather does impact the way a person reads something, right? If you, and I'm not saying you have to always put in bad weather, that's definitely not necessary. You can make something with very pleasant weather still be scary, because we're going to talk about a lot more tips. But if you do include some spooky weather, that is a very quick and easy way to set a somewhat ominous tone, right? So here, when I imagine looking at a carnival setting, and I think about it being bright and sunny and all of these rides, right? That gives me a very different feeling than looking across a carnival setting with all of these rides and seeing an ominous, darkening sky or clouds rolling in from the distance, or even hearing thunder. That makes me kind of want to take cover, right? And it also puts me in a mood that makes me look at the setting a little bit differently. I might feel a little bit more spooky about it, especially if we add in some other things to make sure that as a reader, I feel that way. So let's move on to another trick. So weather, not necessary. You don't have to make something bad weather to make it spooky, but it is an easy trick. And one thing I do use sometimes, you will see if you read either of my books, there are scenes, especially in Peculiar Incident has a lot of scenes with weather in it. And that actually ties in to the plot quite a bit, but also Scritch Scratch has some as well, because it's just, I think it's just inherent in our natures as humans to be a little bit leery when there's bad weather, right? We kind of want to take cover. We want to get away from that. And so it's okay to use that to make our readers uncomfortable. Okay, so back to our list of other tricks, and also see if these tricks I'm listing to you are things that you highlighted or underlined or circled or whatever in the beginning. I have a feeling you probably did catch some of these when you were reading through. So the second thing that I did between these two samples that I think is pretty important, and I know that you guys can replicate this, and it just is a matter of looking at what you're writing in two different ways, is descriptions, right? If you look at example 1, the descriptions of the rides in this one and the second one, they have a very, very different feel, really different. So let's look at example 1, the not spooky one. Well, let's see. Starting with the rides, we have shrieks of excitement echoing into the air, followed by the thunderous whoosh of a roller coaster plummeting down a steep drop. Now, the way that our character is describing the Falcon is pretty exciting. 0 to 60 miles per hour, 6 loops, dozens of drops. And then we know that unlike me, who's terrified of roller coasters, this character's excited because he or she leaves us with, "I can't wait to go on it," and an exclamation point. We know our character's excited. We know this is a thrilling proposition for them, okay? But if we go to example 2, I think the ambiance and the feeling here is way different. So we've got, the park is surging up into the gray sky in a mess of twisted metal roller coasters and monstrous rides. Right away, that gives us a very different feel for this carnival. When I close my eyes, I like to do this when I'm reading, so I'm going to encourage you guys to do it. If you read a line that's particularly vivid and descriptive, close your eyes for just a minute and try to imagine that. When I think about a carnival ride surging up into a gray sky, twisted metal, and hearing shrieks of terror, I don't feel like I want to run and buy a ticket to that particular event. I feel a little bit on edge. It makes me feel unsafe. And that's kind of the feeling we're going for. That's kind of what we want our readers to feel when we're writing spooky things. We also have, let's see, oh, and even beyond that, we have other descriptors dealing with the park that aren't necessarily the rides themselves, right, guys? So let's go backward. Let's go backward to our first one. Smell of popcorn wafting past my nose. That's a comforting smell, right? That makes us think of fun things, theme parks, or maybe just even movie theaters and movie nights, all things that are relaxing and fun. Stomach is growling, right? Falcon, the newest roller coaster. I mean, all of these things are just small details giving us a feeling of excitement, right? Versus example 2, where all of these small details add up to give us a feeling of foreboding, right? Something bad is coming. We don't know what it is, but we know it is. We have the gentle tinkling of music is a little different description than in the first one, where it's described as playful, right? This time it's described as being eerie. It's quiet, but it's always there. No matter where this character goes, it's kind of in the background and it's making him or her feel very uncomfortable. And then you've got the red and white striped tent labeled Funhouse. Now, the way this becomes described later on in the passage is where I think things really ramp up. It's looming. First of all, the choice of the word looming, guys. When I think of something looming, I don't necessarily think of a big, cute, fluffy puppy dog looming. I think of something not great, like a giant, scary something, right? It's just a word that gives me that feeling. This is looming like a striped giant against the blackening sky. That gives me a very clear impression of this carnival tent. And it also tells me, no thank you. I wouldn't want to go in there. Like right away, I'm uncomfortable with the feeling that the description of this tent is giving me. And then also, our last pages here, or not our last pages, but our last sentences, what's inside the Funhouse tent and why does it seem anything but fun? That's the question I'm kind of asking myself right now after reading all of these descriptors, right? So the descriptions of the rides and of the carnival itself are similar in the sense that you are getting the same thing, right? You still hear music, you still see a Funhouse tent, you still see rides. Those things are all the same in our 2 examples, but the way they're described is very, very different, and it sets a very different tone for our reader. And then the last trick that I want to talk about, it's not really even a trick, but it's very important. We kind of touched on it a little bit, is how is our character reacting to their surroundings, right? This is a really important thing because even though you may not always identify with or react to something you're reading in the same way as the character, it does give us kind of a visual cue and a mental cue as to how we might react in that situation. So if you look at our character's reaction, we talked just a tiny bit about this. We know in the first one, in the first example, our character's really excited to go on these rides. Our character is excited to be at this carnival. This sounds like something they've been looking forward to for a long time, right? versus the second one where things are a bit more tentative, right? I can imagine the character in the second one kind of standing back and surveying everything that they're seeing and perhaps being awkwardly uncomfortable in the background. Like maybe, everyone else could possibly be piling onto rides or waiting in big long lines or whatever it is, walking around with their whatever and their ice cream or their cotton candy, and our character kind of looking at it and thinking something is off here. I don't like the feeling here, something bad is coming. And maybe the other characters are reacting that way too. We don't know. I didn't give you really any other characters in these, so we don't know how everyone is responding to the circumstances, which makes it even more fun. Is it just our character who sees all of this? Or is it everybody, right? So those are some of the main ways that I take a scene, any scene, and I make it spooky. And you can do this anywhere whatsoever. If you think about it, my first 2 books are set in Chicago. And while there are some spooky locations in the book, there's a few. There's definitely Graceland Cemetery is mentioned in both. And there are some haunted locations, especially with the Spirits Tour and Scritch Scratch, and those are a bit spooky. But overall, Chicago's not a spooky city. It's not overly scary. It's vibrant and it's bustling and there's a lot of people and it's friendly and it's beautiful. But this is a great example of how you can take anything and give it that feeling and breathe life into it in a scary, spooky, mysterious way. So now to the really fun stuff, because I'm hoping that you guys may be interested in actually doing a little workshopping on your own and then possibly sharing what you've worked on with me. So I have a story prompt here, and this is only for people who might need a story prompt, okay? Some people have a very difficult time, me sometimes, coming up with what to write, and we'll sit and stare at a blank page until we feel like we're gonna go bananas. And so I'm going to give those of you who want one a story prompt that you can start on and apply all of these things we just talked about to that prompt. If you come up with your own idea, go for it. That's amazing. But let me read this to you and let me explain what we're going to do, and then you can make your own decision, okay? That's my dishwasher in the background. The joys of working from home, right guys? We're all gonna be experiencing a lot of stuff like this in the future since we'll be spending more time in the houses. I'm surprised the dog hasn't burst through the door. Okay, so here is the story prompt. I want you guys to look around the room you're in, whatever room you're in at the moment, or just pick a room of your house. Find an object, any object whatsoever. Then consider how it would look to you if you had never seen it before. In fact, what if you walked into your house and discovered that object in your room, sitting on your bed, but you had no idea where it came from or who left it there? I want you to write 2 samples of that same scene, guys. One of them not spooky, and one of them spooky, just like I did with the carnival, okay? And then I want you to also remember that this is only the first part of this particular workshop. We have 3 other parts that I'm going to be filming as well for you in the upcoming week and a half, and I'll be posting them and doing the same thing. If you choose to participate in this part of it and try this on your own, I would love to see what you work on. Keep in mind, I want you to have a parent's permission before you were to email me or send anything to me. But if you choose to do that, I promise you, I will respond. I will let you know that I'm reading and how excited I am about it. If I have your permission, I might even share a line of it on my social media, on Twitter or on Instagram, or give you a shout out by first name only so that we can be safe. Okay? So if you want to share with me what you've done, let me show you where you're going to do that. I'm going to grab my computer again. Okay. So if you want to share with me what you've done, you're going to go back to my website. This is where we were before. We were on the Spooky 101 tab. And instead, this time, you're going to go to the About Me tab. See how it turns red? And there's a contact part. You're going to click on contact. Ba-bam! And check it out. There is a contact form here that you can reach me directly through here. You can put here in the message part, because as far as I know, there's no limitation on how much you put in there. you can copy and paste what you're working on and you can send it to me right in here. And in the subject line, put Spooky 101 or Spooky Story or Spooky Workshop, anything like that to let me know where this is coming from, okay? I probably will not get back to you in the exact same day that you send it to me. Don't worry, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to respond to you. It just means that I anticipate seeing a lot of these in coming days. And I still have my own work to do, so it may take me a little bit longer than usual, but I'm excited to see it, and I promise I will respond, okay? Also, next workshop video, when is it going up? I would say give me a couple of days, guys, and we'll dive into Spooky Story Part 2, which is, I can't remember, Part 2 is really fun. It's using all 5 senses for a description. So if you guys want, you can also print all of these off in advance. Knowing that I'm going to film a video, you can just go in and print everything off so you have hard copies and look over it ahead of time. Otherwise, you can always pause videos. It's super simple. And I'm really glad you guys joined me today. Remember that I know coming weeks are going to be strange, and you know, the news seems a little bit ominous and everything is different than it usually is, but we can still have fun. We can still communicate. We can still celebrate books and writing and all the wonderful things that make literature an awesome, awesome thing. So don't panic and let's just enjoy each other. Remember that because of YouTube's new policies and because my videos are made for young viewers primarily, you cannot leave me a comment down below, but you can click like on the videos that you like, and that tells me that you enjoyed it, and you can subscribe so you don't miss future ones, okay? All right, everybody, thank you for joining me on this first workshop. I will see you all again very soon. Bye, guys.